welcome, and we're very pleased to have Diego and Carla Valles here from Mata Ortiz in Mexico, giving a wonderful demonstration and their generous time to do this all-day demonstration. I know my students, my name is Laura Gascon, by the way. I'm the coordinator, and I teach most of the ceramics classes here at JUCO. So we're very, very honored to have the Valles here to do this wonderful demonstration. So I've informed my students and anybody who's seen the announcement on InfoList that basically this is a casual come and go, as you please kind of demonstration. So as you come and go, just be respectful and polite, and turn your phones off or on buzz or whatever. As you noticed, we've got the Valles projected up here so that people can see as we fill up. So yeah, it's going to be pretty casual, and I'm going to let them take over. We're also very pleased to have the Washburns here. They are sponsoring the Valles project here, workshop, and so we're really, really honored and pleased to have them here as well. So with that, I'll let you guys take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
If there's anything I can get you, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for coming and joining us today. And I see some familiar faces, and I hope you have a good day with us. Who's familiar with Mata Ortiz other than our friends? You guys, you've been there, you've seen the pottery?
Just the pottery in the museum's collection here on campus.
Okay. Well, we're just a couple of potters from Mata Ortiz, and Mata Ortiz, I'll give you a little bit of our history. It's a small town in northern Chihuahua. We're very close to the border, maybe 3 hours from the border, and we are about 1,500 people in the little town, and over 500 of us are potters. We are all native to the place. It's one of the largest pottery communities in Mexico doing this kind of art. In terms of quality and importance, the pottery we do is very different compared to the rest of the pottery going on in Mexico. There are very, very large pottery communities. There is one in Puebla that has over 2,000 studios, but they do other type of pottery. The ceramics that we are producing in Mata Ortiz can be anywhere in a modern contemporary art museum, in a modern art gallery. It's quite different, although we come from a tradition, the processes and the techniques we use are very traditional. From collecting the clay to firing the pieces is always very traditional, but the pieces coming out of Mata Ortiz are more contemporary. And what we're going to show you today is just the process of how we make those ceramics, My wife Carla is going to be painting, and I'll be doing the building and some of the varnishing. Everything we do in our ceramics is handmade, 100%. We collect the clay from the mountains, from the hills, and our region is very generous in clay deposits. We have all the clays that you see are natural. The ones that you have seen online, the pictures, all those clays are natural occurring. We mix them amongst them, and then we have different shades, of earthen colors and whiter and darker. The building is hand-built. We use plaster molds. We roll a small slab of clay, pinch it into the mold, or what we call a mold. It's just a plaster base to support the shape of the vessel, and then hand-built, pinching with coils and pinching. And then once the piece is dry, maybe in 2-3 days, depending on the weather, then the piece gets sanded and you get a finish like this, It's a sort of like a satin looking. It's very smooth, but it doesn't have the shine that we get with the varnishing, which comes next. We use oil and water and varnishing rocks for the polishing. I'm gonna pass around some of the tools later.
I have a couple of questions. Like, how do the tribal styles vary in that region? I don't know if you have tribal affiliation in Mexico, like how that works.
No, not really. We don't have that like the Southwest natives of the states. We do have our ceramics heritage comes from a culture that disappeared.
Right.
And that culture has relationship with the Anasazi from the Southwest, but they vanished almost 1,000 years ago, and the ceramics disappeared.
The Anasazi were quite big because they went all the way up to Mesa Verde.
Yep, Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and down into northern Mexico.
Wow. And do you use a terra sigillata? In Latin means earth seal, like.
Yeah, I know terra sigillata. It's not what we use, but the pigments we use are very fine, and the way we process them is very similar to the way you would process a terra sig. So probably it could also be called terra sig. It's just we don't call it that way, but it might be so.
Is it like clay?
It's clay for the pigments. Okay, after the varnishing, just to follow up with the process, then comes the painting. But depending on what you're doing, you might varnish or not a piece, to have different finishes on the piece. Like this one is a combination of matte and varnish, or shiny. Or make it shiny all over or not shiny at all, just flat. Then the pigments we use for the painting come also from the clay deposits that we have in the region. And what Carla and I do for our pottery, we use the very traditional pigments, not because we are so much purists, in that sense, but it's what we want to do for now. We want to expand or to do as much as possible with the very traditional, and then we'll see what happens. Our shapes are coming out quite different to the traditional shapes, which is just a basic pot shape. But the pigments we use are minerals that occur naturally. The black is manganese oxide, and the red is red iron oxide. We use different iron oxides, that are naturally occurring. We have a yellow iron oxide that we mix with the clay as well, and we have a very nice shade of red, after the firing. The white clay, we just process it finer, than the regular clay, and we get a white pigment. So these are the three main colors we use for our pots and our pigments. You get from the ground, you get it all mixed with everything, roots, leaves, stones, sand. The process for the clay and the pigments to get them to the stage where you can work with them is very similar. The clay gets soaked in a lot of water, like 1 pot of clay per 5 parts of water, and then you let it there for days until it's dissolved and separates from the rocks and whatever else it has. And then we strain it with different fabric cloths. We don't really use strainers, like
Sieves.
Yeah, like sieves. We use cloths, those are our sieves. And we get a fine, watery mix. Then it settles. We remove the extra water, and the soup-like that is left, we put in plaster, which absorbs the water, and then we get something like this consistency. It's dough-like. It's like Play-Doh. And it's the same for the pigments, except that we don't remove all the water, and the clothes, the fabrics that we use for straining or cleaning are much finer. So that's how we get the pigments. And also, because of the size of the particles for for the pigments, you know, they don't really settle. So it goes sort of like in the terrace-ish process, you know, where you remove the layers, you know, the middle layers or the bottom,
Right.
according to what you want for the pigments. Then the firing, you know, the firing is the last step in the process of a piece for Mata Ortiz. We don't do anything after the firing. Every piece that you see, the painting and the burnishing, everything has been done before the firing. And we have traditional firings that go from cow manure to cottonwood bark and pine wood, and is low temperature firing. We don't really have pit firings, you know, like not on a pit, it's just a fire on the ground. And let's say this is a pot that we want to fire. We use a metal container, like a tub or a terracotta pot. We cover our piece with it and build a fire around. And the sagar or the kiln that we call a kiln, you know, it's just to protect the actual piece from getting the heat directly and staining with carbon, you know, the pot or just breaking it, you know, from the shock.
Is there a traditional separation of, I mean, maybe not now, but gender-wise, do the men typically like make the pots and the women decorate, or is there a gender separation, or?
Well, usually, you know, the wife, because it's a very family-related business, if you want to call it a business, you know. Like, most of the family is involved somehow. It used to be, not anymore, not so often anymore, you know, that the wife would make the pots, they would build, and the man would paint. So you see some pieces, you know, with very delicate designs, you know, very fine lines, very highly detailed, and I myself, even if I understand how we do it, I see a woman behind that, and some of them are quite feminine, and they were painted by a man, you know, a cowboy. We are talking about a cowboy region, you know, that mostly lives on agriculture and cattle raising. So you see these friends, you know, of ours, you know, big, tall guys, cowboy hat, big hands, and then these delicate pieces that they make. It's fun to a point, you know. And then everybody's involved, you know, the kids of the family, you know, if it's time for picking up clay or cleaning clay, gathering cut down for the firing, everybody gets involved. And that's how we learn, just by doing, you know, we learn by doing what we do, which is probably the best way to learn. You know, you want to learn to do something, you do it over and over until you master the technique and come up with new ideas, you process it. Well, anyway, that's how we learn. The tools we use are very simple, very minimal, and most of them we don't buy. You know, everything that's available to us that we can use, we adapt somehow to work for what we do. Like our building tools, you know, I have broken kitchen knives. Well, these two I have used for over 10 years probably already. Carla remembers this one because I stole this when we were dating from her house. She wasn't cooking much, so I said, well, this works well. And then spoons, you know, different sizes. And as we go on with the demonstration, you'll find out what every piece is for, and then you'll find what you've been using with your clay, you know, scrapers, well, broken spoon, you know.
Yeah.
We tend to spend a lot, you know, on tools these days. You know, artists, it's expensive, tools are expensive, but once you develop your own style and your own techniques, you know, you don't really have to buy all of this, you know, everything is available cheaper. And usually after you have developed your own technique or style, you know, you find out that the tools that you created yourself work better. This is hand building. Then the painting, you know, the brushes we use, you know, they are human hair brushes, straight hair, you know. everybody in Mata Ortiz has a little bit of a twist on their tools, but for the brushes, it's always human hair. You know, they can be attached to a stick, to a pencil, to a pen, to anything, but it's always human hair and different thicknesses, different lengths. What we are using, Carla and I, are big pens. You know, we remove the ink, the ballpoint, stick the hair through, and the hair is trapped between the pieces. The pen here is composed of 3 main pieces. You know, the big handle,
It's a
the
big
middle.
pen, a big pen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pass this around with the burnishing stone. I don't know if this is really interesting for you guys, but
Yeah.
just kind of look at it.
Oh my God. Wow. Now, do you polish these yourself?
No, those rocks, there is a rock shop close to where we live, and we commission the rocks. You know, that's Jay.
That particular shape you
Yeah.
asked for, yeah. That's beautiful.
Feel free to ask questions at any time. Ask Carla or ask myself, I talk more than anybody else.
Okay, you guys feel free to ask questions.
And also, you know, I know you have the screen there, but if there is something that you want to look up close, then you can feel free to come down.
If somebody want to come close, it's welcome.
I'll do it.
The clays that we're going to be using are the clays that
I have
we use
very good eyes.
at home.
You have to,
I have
to do that.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Now, do you do most of the painting then, or do you both do painting?
We both work differently, and we mostly don't do collaborations. You know, we have done only 2. That's the 3rd one, although that's a demo piece. You know, but we have done only 3 collaborations. She does miniatures, tiny little ones. She has some there. She probably
Pots?
has.
Pots?
Yeah, pots and tiny.
Wow.
And she's won a lot of awards with her miniatures.
Now, did you make this one, or did you?
I made that one, and then she's
Right.
she's painting.
Speaking to my students, I mean, feel free to look at it. There's no way to even to see it. I mean, he kept telling me, "Don't worry, we're potters. It's okay." I was very fragile about, making sure everything was right, and he says, "No, don't worry, we're all potters."
Well, I've noticed a lot of the other pots we've seen have a design repeated 3 times
Yeah.
around the side, and your pots are not. Is that just a choice, whether you want to be symmetrical?
Like that one, the white one to the right, that's symmetrical. It has 2 sides design. Then the red one in the middle, it doesn't, and the one to the left, it doesn't. Our pieces are more non-traditional in that sense, and also the shape. Those are kind of traditional shapes in a way, but not so much. We have other weird pieces that are not sitting well or not symmetrical. It's just whatever you do. Nephew.
Yeah, it's my nephew.
Oh, my brother's son's
Yeah,
hair.
yours here.
Yeah, my brother's son's hair.
Because it's better to look for a certain type of hair.
It has to be straight
Yeah.
and
Stiff.
and not really stiff, but flexible. And actually, the brushes have to have a mix of hair, because if it's too flexible, if it's too straight, it wouldn't hold the painting. It bends, it drops.
Yeah.
And then if it's too stiff, it doesn't really fit the surface of the piece.
So it has to be a special.
Yeah.
The texture that you like.
Yeah, and my nephew is 2 years old. And, you can see how detailed is my paint, so I have to use very fine hair.
Yes.
Okay. So you choose your person.
Yeah.
Cut the hair off.
So depending on the type
So
of
the
design,
Diego, is
you might
that
use a
just
different,
pure clay, or do
some
you mix
designs maybe
anything
more
like,
horsehair,
Yes.
some
I
designs.
Yes,
get
like
sand
this
or
line,
anything?
these lines.
Most of the
I
clays we
use
use,
one of Diego's. Or,
Right.
they come out good
That's-
for
This is just
what
like
we
one
do.
hair.
We don't really add
Two
drug or
hairs.
anything.
yeah.
too.
We do mix them amongst themselves, to make them really work. Like this white clay has three
Okay, I'm gonna see.
combinations, these three clays combination. But still pure clay, we get three different kinds of white clay from three different places. We mix them together in certain quantities and then it works. One of them is too sticky. It's not good for hand building.
Plastic.
Yeah. Another one is much wider, but it's not flexible.
Right,
So we have to balance
yeah.
that. Same for the brown and the red.
Diego, how far do you have to go to find that type of clay? Is it immediately in your?
No, it's within. We always say it's local clay, but
Yeah.
We-
Oh, yeah.
it's a wide, big region. It's miles
Yeah, it takes me a while.
and miles
I
around.
don't know
So some of the
exactly
clays
how many
are
days
right there.
how many
Like there's a
hours,
yellow
but
clay
it takes me a lot.
for the red,
Sometimes.
for the red,
Yeah, and
for the
I
red,
have to use
for the red
very-
pieces. And that yellow
and I
clay
like
is
to use this kind of
only a mile away from
brush
where we
with
are.
only 2 hairs,
Mile or
and I
two.
have to paint twice or 3 times each line. It's a consequence.
Sure. Voy a sacarlas ahorita las miniaturas.
Sí, porque si quieres yo
No.
lo saco.
Did you hear from Bruce about Carla's miniatures? We can get them out here then.
I put a message in.
Okay.
Yo lo saco si quieres. porque yo
Sácalas
sé
para
cómo.
mí. You can pass,
Feel it, yeah. So
pass
this
it around and feel
is
it.
very fine.
It is very fine. It's almost like porcelain.
Yeah, and it's plastic. It's very plastic. Like, it's
Yeah,
high
yeah.
and not refractory, like.
Mhm.
Diego is passing around a piece of clay that you all can feel what it is. It's very, it's like porcelain to me. Very, very fine. Do they shrink a lot? Do they shrink?
About from 10 to 12%.
It's
Yeah.
not too bad.
It's not too bad.
And what is your rate of survival when you fire? Like, is there a certain
The clay is too tight, it's very, it doesn't really have growth. So the only problem is getting them slowly, to the temperature. So we preheat them with bulb lights or at the kitchen oven, on very low temperature for 3-4 hours.
take them out?
And then take them out on a piece of cloth and then to the firing. We also use, I didn't finish talking about it, but for the firing we also use electric kilns. And well, the traditional firing was always wood or cardon firings, outside. But you lose more pieces that way, and some pieces, they take weeks and even a month or 2 to finish.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'll show you pictures of different pieces, but there is this one that a friend from Mata Ortiz made. It was a huge piece and it took him a month and a half to finish. And I just can't see something like that being raised outside if it's windy, if it's raining, if it's cold.
But it survived the firing?
It did, yeah. So the traditional for us, really in Mata Ortiz, is not much about. It's traditional because it comes out of a culture, that has been in the region forever, and it's traditional because the process is traditional. It's very simple, very Yeah, simple.
Was it passed
But
down
we-
by your parents? Like, is it oral tradition like your father?
No, it was, that culture disappeared, and I'm gonna talk more about it tomorrow, but the Pakime culture, the one that was established in the area, for hundreds of years, they disappeared in the early 1400s before the Spanish came to the area. But they had a beautiful ceramics heritage. They are gone, and they didn't leave descendants on the area. They just vanished. Like the Anasazi, nobody knows where they really went. And then in the late 50s, the Amaranth Foundation from Arizona and the Mexico National Institute for Anthropology and History, they worked together to uncover the main city of the culture. The culture was widespread in a big area, and their culture reached places like what's a big lake up north, the Superior Lake. They have found pieces from Pakime that far and down into Teotihuacan. So they traded with other cultures. Well, they disappeared. Nobody knows where they went. And then in the late 50s, these two institutions they uncovered what probably was the capital for the culture, and it's right there. It's called Pakime, and the ceramics that they got out of there became very sought after collectors, antiques collectors, and there were ruins of the civilization all over. Mata Ortiz, where we live, the town is built on top of all ruins. So every time people is digging for foundations or a trench for something, you come up with an old artifact. Whether it's a piece of clay or a rock that's been worked, something, a tool. And back in the 50s, late 50s and 60s, the place where we live, that area lives on agriculture, but it's seasonal agriculture. And those years, that decade was very dry, and people was very poor, still poor, but not as much as then. And they saw an opportunity in those antiques, and selling them would bring them some income.
It's mountainous or hilly.
Yeah, it's like high desert, but Mata Ortiz is at a point where the mountains from the Copper Canyon end and the desert, meets. The Chihuahuan Desert. So anyway, these people started selling the artifacts they came up with, and started digging, on purpose, for selling those. And then pretty soon they found out that they could replicate those instead of digging for them and looking for them. So a small group of people from Mata Ortiz started doing that. Amongst them Juan Quesada, and then the rest is history, They learned, they mastered.
Are you all related? I mean, is it generation? Are you all related that live in Mata Ortiz? Is it? Are there a lot of big families that kind of overlap?
Yeah, we say we're all related. You can't talk bad about anybody because it's always related to the person you're talking to. But it's a small town. Everybody, we know everybody. It doesn't mean we're friends with everybody, but you go to Mata Ortiz and Doug and Carla will tell you that. They wave, everybody waves at you, saying hi, good morning, and it's such a nice custom, It's just a way to acknowledge you're there, you're walking there and I say, hey, good morning, have a good day. It's not that you're a good friend with that person, but that person is acknowledging you, You're here, I see you, I respect you. I love that about Mata Ortiz, whether you're a close friend or you're just a visitor, everybody's saying hi, I have a friend from school, we studied in the small city next to Mata Ortiz, and the first time she went there, she says, oh, Diego, I feel famous, everybody's saying hi. But then in the 60s, late 60s mostly, and early 70s, the first potters started to teach their family members because they saw again, the opportunity of replicating the old pieces and selling them first as originals, as antiques. They did a lot to these pieces, They fired them after they did it all, and then got them in mud, and dirt, and then sometimes even buried them in some spaces, and they would call. We knew that the dog was coming, and he was buying antiques, and I said, "Dog, I just found this place, with those pieces. Let's go and dig them out." And I just made them the week before, But then, pretty soon, the collectors and the people who was selling those, not really collecting but selling, bringing across mostly to the States, they figure out what was going on, and they say, well, maybe you have a market for this. And the first person who really showed Mata Ortiz to the world, as a pottery place, with very few potters back then in the late 70s or middle 70s, there were probably just 20 potters. And that person was Spencer McCallum. He's in his 80s now. But before him, there were other traders and sellers, and they didn't really promote Mata Ortiz. Everybody, you would go there back then and you say, oh, this is a treasure, I can make money with this. I won't share it with anybody. Then things really changed after Spencer came into touch, with Mata Ortiz and promoted it with galleries, museums in the Southwest mostly. And then the 80s, late 80s and 90s, Mata Ortiz kind of boomed, in a way, from 20 potters in the late 70s to almost 600 these days, and we are all native. That's a big difference with other artist communities, in the world, that, like Santa Fe, artists from all over go there.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who live in Mata Ortiz, working on pottery, we are all native there. And out of those 500 or 550, 600, not everybody works at a high level, but maybe 100, have very good possibilities to become world-known artists, and out of those 100, 30 are already world-known artists, which is amazing for a small little town, And then you consider the background of all these people, farmers. Most of them didn't even finish elementary school. They don't have an art background, and then it becomes amazing. It is amazing.
It is.
How old were you, Diego, when you started learning how to do this?
I was, when the first time I saw a potter there making a piece, it was not in Mata Ortiz. It was a brother of my grandma, and we were visiting with them, my grandma and I. And I remember vaguely, I was probably 7. They were working on clay, and they were making pieces in their house. And then when I was 8, turning 9, I made my first pieces. Just little piece of clay, a ball, pinch my finger. These were my pieces, but I was 8, Shame on me, my daughter, our daughter, she's now 6, when she was 3, she made these beautiful bowls. And I can't believe that me at 8, I was making these, But anyway, I was 9, when I made my first pieces. And my family didn't live in Mata Ortiz. We lived in the smaller village next to it, only 3 miles away. And then we moved to Mata Ortiz so that my brother and I could study middle school, which we didn't have in the other town. Then I worked on and off, because I was always studying, so I would work on weekends and holidays. And I graduated in 2006 and started working full time.
You had a degree in what, engineering?
Yeah, I'm a mechanical and electrical engineer, and never worked on it. Don't look at the electricity at home. It doesn't work well. It's bad. All the wires are bad.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Then we married, and Carla wasn't. She didn't even know what pottery was until we started dating. And you can imagine her father, when we talked to him, you're marrying a potter? And what's that? But anyway, Carla is also an engineer. She's been teaching, and now she's doing pottery full time. She's been doing it for the last 2 years, 3 years.
Engineers. Oh, full time.
Full time, yeah. And the kids. in the school.
I thought you told me, Diego, that when your mother was carrying you and she felt movement in there, they were just making a big deal over the baby's moving. She said, no, he's wedging clay.
That's fun, yeah.
Wasn't that true?
Well, I'm gonna start. We already watched this one.
Typically, from start to finish, what length of time is involved?
For a pot, from making it to firing, there is always a space, or a time for the piece to dry, which takes from 3 to 7 days, depending on the size of the piece. You don't really do much on the pot then, but usually from 1 week to 6 weeks. The piece that I sent, the bigger piece, it took me 31 days to finish, from start to finish, with that time in between, maybe 5-7 days that I didn't do much on it. So actual work, full time, we're talking about full-time job, it's like we're potters, but thanks God, we don't have to have a second job, to support our family, to make a living. So what we do is full time, from 8 to 12 hours of work a day, because you work from home, and it's not like going to an office or out of your place, to work. So you're basically working all day, on and off. 6-8 hours, 6 minimum, a day. So 6 plus 25, that's the time on a big piece. Then you make small pieces. Carla's pieces, the little ones, they take a long time too, painting all those little details. So from actual work can be 3 days to 25 days.
We were real happy that large piece made it here intact.
Oh, I was happy. I was worried, but I didn't want to call because I didn't want to get bad news.
The piece that Diego's referring to is on display over in the lobby. It is fantastic. And we're working on seeing if we can put another stand up for Carla's miniatures. Whenever anybody photographs Carla's work, we always put a dime or a penny next to it so that you get an idea of the proportion.
Well, I think Carla got out some of the little ones
You can
now.
see them over there on the table. Yeah.
The detail is just amazing, and when you see them, you don't realize it's all handmade. Carla just won an award, a national award for miniatures in a competition, and she got a second. And when she got to the ceremony, for the awards, one of the judges approached and she said, "Congratulations, Carla, your work is beautiful." And then they say, "What kind of stamps do you use for your designs?" You say, "It's not a stamp. Every line you see I did with a brush, and I went over the same line 2 or 3 times to make it bold enough. It's not a stamp." She said, "Oh, it's not a stamp?" And say, "Why did you give an award to a piece that you think has a stamp?" I mean, it can be done, but look at all the handmade work around, and you're giving an award to a piece that you think has a stamp or like a decal, that you can do on a computer even. It has value, but not as much, And when it comes to crafts, it does really not make sense. So you really have to know how they're made to really appreciate them, in another way.
And this is why she didn't drink coffee this morning.
Yeah, you have to have a steady hand.
So do you usually have a design in mind that you want to make, or is it your vision created as you go along?
Are you asking me?
Either one of you.
Oh, I have like my own style, but when I'm painting a piece, sometimes I have a new idea for the next one, you know? So, I could do this in the next one, and I try and I try. For example, I always like to paint hummingbirds, but one day I say, Diego, I'm always painting the hummingbird. What if I make the hummingbird like in 3 dimensions, you know? And I put on the photo, and they say, I'm not sure if it's possible. I'm gonna try.
Well, she was talking that size, and I was figuring out what she was talking about. I said, that size? I don't think, Carla. Then she made it.
Yeah, I did. You know, for example, I really love to paint it, or it's like my signature, and the hummingbird. I'm not sure if you can see it.
He's coming in on a close-up.
That's it. Okay. So, and when I was painting the hummingbird, I say, what if I make the hummingbird? And I did it.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So,
Fantastic.
that's it.
You have nails too. Do your nails ever get in the way? Fingernails?
Que si no te molesta.
No.
No.
But I don't use it all the time, you know. For example, when I'm making the pieces, I cannot use it. But when I'm painting, I can.
Yeah.
Is it typically this quiet when you work?
Oh, we have 2 daughters, 6 and 3 years old. 4. Forget it, it's never quiet there. We just finished about a year ago a small room, to use as a studio.
Very
And
small.
Very small, yeah, but it's good enough to be called a studio. And I was picturing myself, just myself, my desk, my clay, all day long. And as soon as it's finished, Carla gets the washer and the dryer there. So it's never going to be quiet. And then the next thing I know is the little ones, both of our daughters, are working next to me. They want clay too. And so I have one daughter here, the other here, the washer and the dryer. It's absolutely not quiet.
Or sometimes they bring the books and colors, and they are on the floor painting, and it's like a mess.
But that's the way we learn in Mata Ortiz. It's a very traditional, I would say, way of learning, just by watching and doing it. And it's very free way of learning, I give my daughters a piece of clay, but I don't tell them, you have to do this, and you're not keeping a straight line, or you're painting outside the lines. That's not the way we learn in Mata Ortiz, and that's precisely what has allowed us to grow so much, because we can go just any direction. And I'm not saying tradition is bad, but if you look at the Southwest pottery, from the Southwest natives, they really have to follow guidelines, from their families, their tribes, and it does limit, creativity, because you can't really do everything you want. Well, that's not happening in Mata Ortiz, and that's really made a big difference.
Well, I think it's safe to say when Doug and I were in Mata Ortiz, I think Carla was very generous in setting us up to visit about 12 different families,
Yeah.
I think. And completely different shapes. I mean, some similarities, of course, but very sort of signature oriented, just incredible. And some of the studios were kitchen tables, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you-
Many of the people is working in the kitchen and
Mhm.
kitchen tables and
Carla would knock on the door, and sometimes a woman would come to the door, she'd have a baby on her hip. And these are very modest dwellings, and we'd be invited in, they'd be very gracious, and we'd stand there for a while saying hello. And they would go into a bedroom, and they would come out with this exotic piece of pork and set it on the table for us to look at.
Wow.
I mean, the paradox was just amazing.
It's a wonderful trip because Pacame is, what, how many miles, Diego, from Mata Ortiz?
Maybe just 15 miles.
Yeah, 15
maybe
miles,
30.
and it's a UNESCO site, and are they still actively digging there?
What you saw, it's only about a fourth of the place that has been uncovered, and we keep being told, that there is no funds to keep on going with the excavations.
It's a wonderful place to visit.
The museum, it's absolutely beautiful there too. It's world-class museum, and the building itself, the design got an award just right after they finished it, and an international award for architecture. It's a beautiful place. And we're talking about the ruins, of all this old civilization, and they have a lot of the ceramics there. I'm gonna show some tomorrow on the slides.
Right.
When you're working with clay, the pot, do you have to work fast? I mean, does your clay start drying out quickly, or are you able to spend the time?
No, it's okay. It's not bad. I mean, we don't have to really rush because of that. Some bigger pieces might take, like a small piece, but this size, you can take from half an hour to 45 minutes. Other pieces might take 2-3 hours, 4 or 5, depending. Like the other small piece that I sent, that's more elaborate shape-wise.
Yeah.
And I think that one took about 4 hours. But it doesn't really bother much. Although where we live is very dry, summers are very dry and hot. It gets to 110 probably, 110. It's dry, absolutely non-moist whatsoever.
It's like the opposite here. I have to tell my students I have a humidity meter in the studio, and in the summer, it's like 80% humidity. Nothing dries.
There is nothing worse for what we do than humidity,
Yeah.
It
And
really
then
ruins it.
Now, it's like with the heat on and the cold in winter, it's like 20%. So the variability really affects things. So it's like the opposite in Mexico.
See, this is what we do.
So now you're trimming the
Yeah, with a needle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's. I know you guys might be scared about needles, but there's.
We use needles. That's not syringes. but-
Yeah. Just to make an even start, here. Just- See, who needs a extruder, right? To
Right,
extrude.
no, it's trimming, yeah. You don't use slip when you slip it?
Mm-mm. We don't do scoring and slipping.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Our clay doesn't really need that.
Yeah. I always tell my students, if you don't slip and score, it's going to split.
Yeah.
So you must do a really good job.
Well, the clay is very good, so
Yeah.
it's all the clay's fault.
It's always the play's fault.
Yeah. For good or bad. I use a bending wheel at home just to make
I could have
this.
brought you one, we have plenty of them.
Nah,
Maybe.
this is okay.
We're gonna be in troubles.
Yeah, because I'm moving you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to get one? So
No,
it doesn't
no.
vibrate? I can? I go get, I'll go
Okay,
get.
thank you.
Can't get it anyway. Yeah, man. I'll be right back. And just remember, you guys, they do have to eat, so at 11:30, we'll, they're gonna take a break. And we'll be back in here around 12:45.
Who's studying clay? You are? Is that just part of your degree, or is that the degree itself?
For our yeah, I have we both have our undergraduates in painting. We just take
Okay.
an extra class.
So if you get a bubble that causes it to break in the firing, is that because it was innate in your block of clay to start with, or did that somehow get incorporated when you were working the clay and a bubble got in?
Well, the two pieces that we were talking about, I always use an extra piece of clay for the bottom here. See how the white one, it doesn't have a ring, it's sitting on itself. And when sanding, you kind of flatten out the bottom. And if it's too thin, it's gonna break, you're gonna make a hole in it. So I use an extra piece of clay to make it thicker. But if I don't put this right here, if I don't press good enough, or if I leave an air pocket there, it's gonna explode, it's gonna break. And that's what I did. Other bubbles, in the body of the pot might be caused for a lack of wedging. If you don't wedge out the clay well, that's what happens.
And sometimes the red clay is like more difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah, the red clay, it's more sticky and it's harder to wedge, Not this. This is a combination of the red and the white. It's going to be a pink clay after the firing.
Are your miniature pieces, are they hollow inside or are they a solid piece of frame?
No,
This
¿cómo
is
se dice
not
huecas? Sí, pero ¿cómo se dice huecas?
Hollow.
Yeah, are hollow.
Hollow?
Yeah.
When you feel the inside of the pots, they're so thin. It's just like magic.
So Carla, how many bristles on brush are you using? Is
I have two hairs.
it 2 hairs?
Yeah.
Two.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to use 3, depending on the hair, but most of the time I use 2.
Do you map out the design that you're painting in advance, or do you kind of just feel it as you're going along? Do you know in advance what the design's going to look like exactly, or do you change it as you're painting?
Yeah, you can change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you have an idea, but when you're working on it, you can say, I can do something, or you can have a new idea,
Or you make mistakes too, You paint an extra line, it's not supposed to be there, you have to change the design. You can scrape out a little bit of the paint, but if it's gonna damage more than clean, you better change the design. So.
And are you playing with slip? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a mix of water and clay and a mineral.
And to get that really shiny part at the top, do you buff it or?
It's burnished
Polish.
in the rock. Enséñame la piedra.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, here. We use this kind of rocks, and we use oil and water. Yeah.
And
Oh.
how long would it take to burnish something like that?
Something like that. Como 3
Like
horas. No.
between 2 and 3 hours.
If you burnish the whole thing, but for this one, I think it took only an hour.
You think?
For what you, I'm gonna show that later on when we're done with this. Oh, the smaller one. Oh, thank you.
Hopefully I won't be going on.
Nice. Thank you. Carla is happy now.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You want her to be happy.
See, the bases we use, these do limit a little bit, the shapes we want, but not necessarily. You can do a lot with them, and they basically just help to support the body, that you're making.
Yeah. Oh, that's what they're doing.
See, with the spoon, I'm gonna be scraping the inside to have a smooth finish. I don't know if it shows there.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a bad time of day to park this one. So do you, Carla, do you normally do the painting of the surface, or is it something that sometimes Diego you do, and sometimes you do, and you just?
Usually I make my own pieces, I decorate, I paint, and I do all my work. But this is a collaboration. He made this piece, he sanded, and I'm painting.
Okay.
Yeah, but probably it's the first,
The fourth.
the fourth that we made together.
Oh, okay, so not that often.
Yeah.
Now, do you work with the, to create the black pottery as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do.
And how do you get that metallic sheen to it?
Okay, and the process that we usually do is oxidation. So when you, for example, this piece is shiny and this part is polished. So when you fire and you use the oxidation,
No,
this
reduction.
reduction is gonna look like metallic.
Okay, because I'm thinking the potters of Santa Clara in New Mexico.
Yeah.
They strive to achieve that gunmetal black. Very few get that. I mean, the Mata Ortiz pottery has that gunmetal black that.
And it's a second way to do it for using graffito. Do you know?
Yeah, graphite.
Graphite.
Graphite, yeah, graphite.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, and you can, the piece is gonna look like metallic.
Yeah, with the graphite, it's like
Graphite.
just graphite, it's black and metallic shine.
Uh-huh.
And you can buy that from, I don't use that technique, but I think you buy that from a hardware store, and then there is a special technique to varnish that into the clay, and then you get a metallic shine. And then that one you can fire to oxidation to and still be black and metallic shine with different shades of color, depending on the paints that you use. But if you do reduction, everything's going to be black, all the pigments that you use in the pot. It's a slightly different, finish,
Right.
But yeah, the potters from Santa Clara, I think they do only reduction.
They do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How old were you guys when you started first making?
No, when we start making, I start making pottery when I married. So it's probably 8 years ago. I was
Well, Carla is not originally
26,
from Mata
20.
Ortiz,
Okay.
so she started doing work when we married, and then
Yeah.
I was a kid when I started. But then
Yeah,
Carla's
I
been
was
work-
25.
Carla's been working only for 2 years full time, 2-3 years.
How much time do you spend traveling, like to do things like this, or when you went to Taliesin West and that sort of thing? You spend
Maybe, I don't know, we travel quite a lot,
yeah, it's-
Maybe 8 times a year, almost every other month, and sometimes twice a month, depending. Yeah. That's how we promote our work in Mata Ortiz as well. We do classes, like hands-on, like people get their piece of clay, they make their own pieces, and we paint, fire, demos like this, and just exhibitions, just only the work. It's nice, most of the potters that we meet, from other places, they have to have a second job, they are either teaching or have any other job, to support themselves, and we're very lucky that we can do it 100%, all of our time to pottery.
You used to be a teacher, didn't you, Carla?
Yes, I am.
Carla still teaching. She just got a job at the elementary school there. She was teaching high school and university, and now she's teaching in Mata Ortiz.
Good job.
Well, it's a lot quieter, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
I stopped construction at the time.
Should give you a sense of power.
I don't know, the outcome could be pretty grim.
Diego, is it with the younger generations of potters like yourself that I've noticed that the newer pottery has more space, more sculptural than the traditional? Is that being widely embraced in Mata Ortiz? Or is there resistance against moving away from what the more traditional pots look like?
No, I think the more we are exposed to the world, whether it's just daily life or art, it's changing the way we do things in Mata Ortiz pottery-wise. But when they first started making, they were just mirror reproductions, of the old ceramics, that were made hundreds of years ago. And that's how they market those, But these days, it's you're marketing an artist or a craftsman, and so you have to market the individual, and everybody's got to have something distinctive so that there is a market or a niche for that, So the more different, this is the way we see it, the more different you make your stuff, the more you will be able to sell it, And then again, this is what we make a living off, So you have to figure out the way to be different, yet, similar, because we have. If it wasn't for the collective, for the group, it would have been very difficult for these 500 potters to subsist, like I say, potters really have to have a second job.
Does everybody in the village of Mata Ortiz make pottery then?
Pretty much,
Yeah, probably
most families.
500 people.
Over 500, but it's probably about a third, a little bit over a third of the population.
Okay.
At least one potter for a family,
Yes.
Is the iron oxide, is it just iron oxide, or do you add oil or something else to it?
No, it is only iron oxide with a little bit of clay,
Clay,
to make it
Okay.
sticky to the.
Right.
This is oil, this is mineral oil that we use for burnishing.
Okay.
I'm gonna show that later.
Are your pieces thicker at the bottom then, to hold the weight,
At this stage, they are,
Yeah.
a little bit. So it has to be stronger to support the weight.
Because for a grogless clay like that, when I was feeling it, you'd think that it would have a problem sagging.
No, but the other thing is for hand building, you're pinching and compressing, and it's creating more strength to the clay. If you're throwing, it's not really
Yeah.
compressing much the clay.
But still, I'm a hand builder also, and to build that fast with clay that fine, that
Okay.
it doesn't have grog in it, it would be challenging.
Well, we do this a lot. It's a lot of it comes with the practice. It's a kitchen knife. I don't know what it was for, but it has like a serrated edge.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm using now. And then later, when I move the piece out of the plastic of the bowl, you know, I use a finer blade just to remove the texture. It's easier to work with the serrated edge because it cuts through easier without really going through the clay.
Great. I know that I couldn't live without my serrated rib. Is this about the speed that you normally work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a piece about this size is less than an hour. Yeah. Half an hour or 40 minutes. There is more work after we finish, you know. We let it settle a little bit and then scrape more and then get it out and scrape the bottom. But just the building is not too long.
And then you'll polish, after it's leather hard, you'll polish it to get the smooth surface to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we polish, we sand when it's bone hard, you know, it's completely dry. And then
Thank you.
sanding to get the surface fine, and then the varnishing.
And then what kind of a kiln do you fire it in?
I do both traditional firings and electrical.
Okay.
So I have
Traditional would be like a pit in the ground?
yeah, it's just on the ground. There is no pit, you know. It's I use a kiln. I call a kiln, you know, it's a terracotta pot, you know, a garden pot, low temperature, no glaze, and also a metal bucket or metal tubs. And I just cover my pieces with those and set the fire around.
Okay.
And it's our clay fires to low temperatures from 1300 Fahrenheit to 1700.
Very low fire.
Yep.
So Carla, since you're a teacher, do you also teach kids art?
No. In Mexico, we have I can say, ¿cómo dices deficiente? We don't teach art in schools. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We do have, in elementary and middle schools, we have 1 hour a week of it's called art education. But we don't have a special teacher for that. It can be your maths teacher, it can be your literature.
Because it's only like an activity
It's
for
extra.
the kids. It's not like you're really teaching art. So when I was teaching in university, I taught engineer classes.
Mechanical engineering?
Yeah, no, industrial. I am industrial, yeah. And I taught quality or mathematics or different kind of classes, you know, but related with engineering. And it's the same in high school and middle school. So now that I'm teaching in elementary, I'm teaching the alphabet, the numbers in English. So it's a national program that is beginning in all the country. So we're beginning with the alphabet, numbers, and names of the animals. Very simple.
It's so interesting, you know, that you both have, you know, degrees in engineering and you're doing this now full time.
Yeah, because when you say engineer, you have the vision that is hard work, you know? And art is like soft.
It's engineering too.
It is. When you talk about designs,
Yeah.
it's engineering.
Well, and the whole, it's physics, and the fact that it goes together. I
A
mean,
lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
Kids in Mata Ortiz have to learn about art at home. They don't,
Oh yeah, they.
don't learn about it.
Uh-huh. They don't even.
We were laughing last night because we were telling them about a happening. You know, that this English program for schools, you know, for public schools, is new to the region. You know, it's been going on for the last 2-3 years in other parts of the state. And some schools, you know, some of the English teachers have had problems with the directors of the schools because they say, they have told the English teachers, you know, we have enough we waste enough time with art classes, and then now you want English classes. You know, the education system is so messed up, you know. So and then I think about ourselves, you know, we think our families work hard to get us through school, you know, and the state, if you want, also work hard, you know, to encourage education. They don't really work hard, and then we graduate and we become potters. So what a failure, you know, in that sense, you know.
So even.
Now you've obviously been smoothing the inside as you go along.
Yeah, it's been smooth from the middle down, and then I'm gonna use a spoon
Oh.
after I'm done with this coil.
So I'm thinking as it gets smaller towards the top, it's harder to get.
It is much harder, and that's why we use different spoons. See, have even a little one for the very top.
Yeah.
And then the rim, you know, the profile helps profiling. You know, if you want to create a lip like this, you know, you can
Do you ever mess
just
up? Do you ever mess up?
si te equivocas.
Like, mistake? Yeah.
Like now, this light is not good to
Yeah.
me.
I'm
You know, no. I appreciate so much, but I usually like to paint with the daylight.
Right.
It's better to me
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's very tiny the design, so
Mhm.
I even can't see exactly what I'm.
Yeah, there's too much reflectivity.
Yeah.
If you mess up on a powder, how do you just wipe it off? Or
She's asking if you mess it up,
Yeah.
do you?
Can I fix it?
Yeah, do you wipe it out or how do you?
No, my lines are very tiny and very small, so I can use a needle, but I try to be very careful because I can damage the polish or the rest of the paint. Yeah. But I was telling that the light here is not like very to me, so it's not easy to me be painting here. This.
I doubt we would notice though. So Diego, what would you be doing this afternoon?
I'm gonna show a little bit of the burnishing, just to show how we do it on that piece. And I'm gonna draw some lines as well, and keep talking.
How many of these demonstrations do you do, like in a year or a month?
Maybe 10 times a year, you know, from classes to demos and talks.
Do you ever get tired of it? I mean, does it interfere with your? I mean, because I know when I'm.
It does, you know, we don't really devote 100% of our time to making powder. You know, it's like only 50%. The other 50, it's marketing and computer work
Yeah.
and traveling.
Yeah.
But I love traveling. It's probably one of the main reasons why I stay with pottery other than engineering, you know, because engineering work, first of all, they don't really allow you to create and innovate. You know, you get stuck with whatever company or factory, and there is a job you have to do, and you have to do it over and over and over. There are a few exceptions that you know that you can really, even for improvement, you know, at a factory, you know, if you have an idea about improving the system, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So traveling is good for me. And eventually we get tired, you know. When we met that time in Minneapolis, you know, that was the last time we went there, because those years, you know, I never went back. I've never been back. I was going out once a month, and I remember it was in Minneapolis, but the next one, you know, after that, the next trip, and I was traveling by myself then, and I was waiting for the plane, and I said, what the hell am I doing here? You know? Waiting for 3 hours to the next plane, you know, and so the next 2 years, you know, I haven't traveled as much. Then you get busy again, and you can't really stop it, you know, it's just like, you have to do it because that's what you do.
I imagine that's difficult though when you have children, especially 2 young kids.
Yeah. It's good for mama to be out now, though. Yeah, mothers get the worst part of their kids, you know. Unfortunately.
So do you have parents that take care of the girls while you're traveling?
Yeah, my mother is taking care of them, and sometimes her mother. And we're lucky that we have our parents close by.
Have your daughters expressed any interest in making ceramic works?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, their age, you know, they they do they like mud. I mean, what kid doesn't, you know?
Are you more inclined to encourage your children to go to school to be an engineer or a doctor, or if one day they decided to be a potter or an artist, would you just be okay with that?
It'll be okay, you know, but I think it is important to have a degree on something. I can see the benefits myself of having studied something. It gives you exposure to the world and knowledge in other areas of life that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it opens the world to you, you know. I mean, it really, it doesn't really matter whether you practice it or not. Maybe I say this because I'm doing it, but what's the ultimate goal in life, you know? It's to be happy, isn't it? And if you're happy making a pot or making the same harness at a factory a million times, well, be there, you know, that's the ultimate goal. But a profession, you know, studying a degree, it really opens up the world to you, and it makes you move easier in the world, you know. You learn another language, you can communicate with people, you travel, you see other cultures. I think it's a must. I have to be reminding myself all the time about this because, you know, and I was the first engineer from Mata Ortiz, and there is a lot of pressure, you know, from your family and your family friends and your relatives. You know, they say, you finished your degree and you're being a potter like everybody else in Mata Ortiz. You know, I say, yeah, I'm happy with it, you know, and that's what matters.
But look at what you're giving back to the world, because you're obviously passionate about it. And
Yeah, but when you're this close to what you're doing, you know, you don't really sense that. And it's hard to picture it when you're doing it every time, and it becomes, in a way, just the same thing everybody else is doing. You're just one there, here and there, you know. You're just a potter amongst 1,000 potters, and people sometimes don't really get the picture, you know, that what we're doing is important. I don't know if in Mata Ortiz everybody really realizes how important it is what they're doing, not only for their families because they're supporting them, but also to the world, you know, that it's. Tomorrow I'll talk about it first thing, you know, because in my opinion, your Mata Ortiz pottery, you know, the whole movement, you know, it's become a movement. And it's, in my opinion, one of the most important artistic movements of Mexico, but also of the world. You know, it's influencing other art areas that, like fashion. You know, like there is designers in Mexico that have done their fashion collections, you know, based on Mata Ortiz. And there is jewelry happening now. There is. You know, the other very important movement in Mexico is alebrijes, you know, the wood carvings from Oaxaca. These people is taking those wood carvings to other level too. But guess what? You know, the most important wood carvers from Oaxaca, they are so influenced by Mata Ortiz. We both came into contact with each other, you know, at shows like craft fairs and displays, and you can see the influence of Mata Ortiz. Not of them on our pottery, of Mata Ortiz pottery in their designs, you know.
Yeah.
You see some of these magnificent, fantastic figures, you know, like animals mixed with other animals and beautiful shapes, very sculptural. And then the design, it has a lot of Mata Ortiz. So Mata Ortiz has really, or is really becoming, you know, an art movement in itself, you know, quite separate from the tradition, and regardless of the tradition, you know, because what we do is very crafty, you know, it involves a lot of craft. It's, if not 100% craft, you know. But the pieces, you know, some of them, you know, are quite contemporary, quite modern. You know, they can be anywhere. And if you don't really know how they are made, they just can be anything, you know. Some pieces, you know, they just can be anything. But some people, I don't think everybody realizes there, you know. Well, people is having more exposure, you know, to the world, and like I said, you know, I was the first engineer, you know, to graduate from Mata Ortiz. When I was studying, we were only three students from Mata Ortiz in university, and Carla and myself have created an organization to support culture and education in Mata Ortiz. And last year we provided scholarships, you know, for like a kickstarted, you know, for the kids, you know, for 42 students in university last year. And 10 years ago it was only 3. So there's quite a lot of change in the mentality. Education is important, and it's also related to the economic, you know, people, if you don't have to have your kid working with you, then you can send them to school, you know, or if you can afford school. See, the more you, the more you scrape, the more you smooth the piece, the less you will sand. And sanding is bad. I don't know if you have done sanding. It's bad for everything, you know. And it's a tedious work, you know. I would pay somebody to do it.
You wear a mask, right?
I don't. I know I have to. I don't know.
He's got red lung disease.
Hot lung.
And you actually sand with sandpaper?
We use different grades of sandpaper. You know, we start with usually with 80, and then 150 to 20.
For 40.
Wow. We'll break it in about 20 minutes, if that's okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
And I brought you some fine plastic that you need to, I don't know if it's fine enough to cover.
No, I let it go.
Just sit.
Just sit there, and then maybe after we come for lunch, we'll be ready for. I'm gonna do some cuts just to show, you know, but they're not done at this stage. But
Yeah,
some of my pieces have a lot of open spaces,
yeah.
so I'll be showing that.
Does that make you nervous to cut them?
Yeah, all the time, you know. Yeah. I break a lot of my pieces when I'm sanding, because and I've been cutting now when it's bone dry.
Oh, wow.
So, and they survive. Our clay is very good. It's very strong.
Yeah.
And sanding, you know, it's the delicate part, you know.
Mhm.
So, very careful, sand the edges and smooth the inside, because if it's open, it's gonna show all the prints inside and all that.
Bumps, yeah.
Then you make the wrong move, and there goes the piece.
There's a piece of Diego's that he showed us that it's a fairly large pot, but it's got large, like almost spiral cuts, and it actually expands and contracts.
Yeah, that's a piece that FedEx broke.
Just
That's a piece that
crazy.
FedEx, that's the one that FedEx broke.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I made a little one with a small spiral cut, and it's like the piece is a spring itself. It moves a little bit, but that was like a prototype. Then I opened up the cut, and then it really is a spring now. and that was a big piece that took a long time to make, and I didn't want to let it go, and so I took it to shows here and there, and the last one I shipped to Minneapolis for a competition, and it got there broken. But the box, it would have been there fine, but the box was perforated all the way through with, I think it was a forklift,
Yeah.
or
Oh.
so it's gone.
And they did not honor the insurance.
Oh no.
That's
Oh.
crazy.
No, don't ship anything with FedEx. You know, the more they tell you about their insurance, the less they'll work. It's not good. You can insure artwork for up to $60,000, but they will only respond for 1,000. I don't know how it really works, you know, but I was telling Doug last night, you know, you call and call and call, and you can do anything. At the end, you know, they got tired and they say, you know, we have a lawyer for these cases, and 1,000 is all you're gonna get. You can sue us that we have a lawyer just for these cases. So
That's so wrong.
How much is it to insure?
I think that one I shipped for less than $400. The insurance is expensive, but it's not so much compared to the value of the piece. So insurance, I think it was over 200, 220, 230.
And the value of the piece was.
I insured that for 5,000. But it was worth more. You know, retail, it could have been 15,000 to 20,000, depending on the gallery. But if they didn't respond for 5, so
Shameful.
How long did you work on the piece?
on that one, over 20 days. It has a lot of work. I'm gonna show pictures tomorrow if you have the chance to go to the lecture. It has a lot of work. But hey, you know, it's done, and it was a good challenge. So
It was so unique, the way that it,
Yeah, that's a hard, because the clay usually is brittle under its own weight,
Yes,
and when you don't have a wall,
he was
goes-
using little plastic spacers. to-
Yeah, but once it's fired, it's still
Yeah,
under
right.
it's still fired.
yeah, it was incredible.
What kind of percentage of pieces would you say you lose from the beginning of your process? I mean,
maybe
30
maybe 30%. Yeah.
around.
But most of them don't make it to the painting stage. You know, as I say, you know, I break most of them when I'm cutting or when I'm sanding.
Yeah. That would be devastating to break it after all the.
It's like frustrating. Yeah.
Well, Carla just broke. You did la gota grande que quebraste.
Oh yeah.
What happened?
I always paint my miniatures, you know, and I say I'm gonna make a big. To me, this is a big piece. So I made one like with this shape. Was beautiful, and I spent a lot of time painting and painting, and was probably on the 6th week working, and I had to do something in the morning, so I cover my piece and I leave it there on the table. So when I came back, I had a different thing, so I was busy all day. So when I say, oh, I'm gonna see to paint, and when I undercover, the piece was broken. Was broken. I'm sorry. So
Was a very
I-
close shape.
yeah, I saw the lines, like was crack.
It was a closed shape. You know, it had
Yeah.
a little hole in the bottom, just barely enough to breathe. And we think that's what happened. You know, it accumulated the moisture inside, and then
Yeah, that's what we think, you know. Yeah, I spent 6 weeks painting.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Did you lose any in the firing process?
Can you repeat my place?
Did you lose any pottery in the firing process?
Not many.
Okay.
Not many in the fire. Not in my case.
Carla, what drew you to miniatures? What made you want to do miniatures?
Porque los pequeños.
Why miniatures? I don't know. I like it. I like the miniatures. Yeah. Not many people works in miniatures because sometimes the people don't give the value don't appreciate too much the miniatures, the work. But I really like it, and I love.
It takes just as much work though, you know.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time painting these tiny ones. But I like it, I love it.
Yeah. Do you use them for anything like incense oil, or just for like decoration?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
decoration.
So you're scooping, but smoothing also, Diego?
Yeah, I'm scraping away the bumps and
Yeah. It's interesting to see, I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been almost two hours to be working on this. Our classes are, 3 hours long, twice a week. And, I tell the students, when you come into this room, the time kind of slows down. But on one hand, it speeds up because, clay, you have to go with the time of it. It takes a long time, but yet 2 hours seems like 30 minutes. So it's a weird dichotomy, because on one hand I'm telling my students they have to slow down because the pieces will collapse if they don't. But it's just an interesting thing to see. It didn't feel like it's been 2 hours.
Work with clay is like a passion. You can communicate with the ground, the water. It's like, I don't know,
Dialogue.
you can express what you want, what you feel, or what you like it,
Yeah.
It's communication. You are in contact with the ground, the water, the light.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you go into is it meditative? Like you go into your head, like when you're doing this, like you get kind of lost in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, obviously not in a demo because there's so much distraction, but
Yeah.
it seems very meditative. I mean, for some it might look boring or very tedious, but you think of Zen gardening or something like that. It's repetitive, but you get into a state of mind where you're just kind of on autopilot.
Yes, I can. You can feel the real peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then we have the girls, mama, mama.
No, but they go to school in the morning, so.
Yeah. Does one of your girls go to school then, and the other one stays at home, or are they both?
They both go to school
Yeah. So it gives you a break to
Yeah.
work on.
in the morning.
That's good.
It is.
I understand.
the clay is too soft to do more with it, so it has to get a little bit stiffer. And then I'll remove the texture that I created with the knife. It comes out now.
Whenever you want to make a stopping point is fine, you know.
You guys make pieces sometimes and then bury them in different places to get back.
No, I break a lot. Carla doesn't agree with me, but a lot of the pieces that I don't like, I have what I call my mourning wall. I get the piece and smash it there. We have back then, as I say, I don't know if you were here today, but when the pottery first started to be made in Mata Ortiz, the potters would bury them to fool the collectors, and make them look old. But other potters also did that to test the quality of their,
See if it would break.
of the pottery compared to the old pottery, which had been buried for 600-800 years, and it came out quite nice. So I have actually one of our pieces in our personal collection is Juan's. I think you saw that one. And he buried that to test the quality of his paint, not the clay, but the paint, the slips. And then he buried several pieces around a mesquite tree, and then he moved eventually out of that property, and the tree died, it was taken out, and the pieces were lost. Then the new owners of the house started digging a trench for whatever, and they came out with that one. And of course it broke, with a shovel or an axe pick or something, it's broken. But I was able to get it for our collection.
It's a Juan Quesada. And the paint has survived the...
Oh, quite nice. It's very nice, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
And how much rainfall do you get? So the rain...
We get a rainy season on August, and we get a lot of rain. I mean, for a short period of time, but we get a lot of rain. And like the empty washes you see there, the coming down from the mountains, they look dry and sandy. It's just most of the year. But when they get water, they have a lot of water. You wouldn't picture that if you just see them on early spring or summer. We have a piece that Carla made probably 5 years ago when she first started, and we used it as a garden pot. We water whatever flowers we have in it all the time, and so far it's doing well. It started to deteriorate, but...
Does it freeze where you live at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
And the clay doesn't, because I have pieces outside here, it's really cold in January, February, and it starts to schist off, like start to flake off.
Yeah.
Does yours do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't use ours much for garden pots, but that one, we have another one now, but it hasn't been out there in the winter, but it does that.
Those could be some expensive garden pots.
It's good to use them though,
fun.
Tomorrow, will you show videos of your, or not videos, but images of your studio, or like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah?
Yeah, I want to show the process, you know, what we've been talking about from start to finish, from digging the clay, and some of the pictures were taken in the small studio. Pictures of our work, but also of other potters from Mata Ortiz, and then I want to talk a little bit about the projects that excuse me, our organization has going on. Of course, about the history, and then questions. I have videos, you know, but the pieces. I have videos of the knot pot when I made it.
That's one of them that is on display over at the Nerman, is a knot pot. Imagine the, representing a tie knot. It's quite unusual. It's totally non-traditional design.
Well, if you want to have a closer look, or
And then, want to take a break?
we can have a break. Yeah.
So we'll close the room up around 1:30, and we'll resume. We'll pick this back up at 12:45ish, and go on a couple hours. We're doing the second half, I guess, as it were, of Carla and Diego Valles pottery demonstration. I'm Laura Gascon. I'm the coordinator program. I run the program here for ceramics, and we're very honored to have the Valles here doing this day-long demonstration of their amazing work. And people are kind of free to kind of come and go, because I understand people have classes and their schedules and so on. So we're going to leave the doors kind of ajar so that people can do that without too much noise. So if you turn your cell phone off and try to just be, considerate when you're coming and going, that'd be great. But you're welcome to come up here. Don't be shy. They're not going to bite you or anything. Come and see what they're doing, and feel free to check out their beautiful work. And the first half of today, they were talking about how they, prepare the clay, and the fact that they use these big pins with like human hair attached to it to do the brushing, and it's just amazing. I mean, and most of the tools that they are using are just things that they've either made or found or appropriated in some way. So tomorrow you can also come to the third Thursday lecture in the Hudson Auditorium in the Nerman Museum, and check out more of what Diego and Carla have to say. So with that, I'll let you all take over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Carla is going to keep on painting a little bit, and I'm going to make a small piece just for those who didn't see it this morning with the other clay, and then I'm going to finish a little bit of varnishing, and that probably will conclude our demo. And please feel free to ask any questions, and we'll try to answer.
Can I ask you, this morning you used the red clay, and
Yep.
now you're using this lighter clay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference in the way they feel?
Not really. This has a little bit of softer consistency, but it's only because of the amount of water
Oh,
in it. I mean, it's
the same.
pass this around.
It's plastic pieces.
So it's pretty much the same.
It's so fine. So what kind of fabric do you sieve it through? Like t-shirt fabric or?
No, you know, I'm using a nightgown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't mine.
No,
Wasn't mine.
Diego, for the students that weren't here earlier, do you want to talk about the clay and how you find it?
yeah, all this that we use for our pottery is natural occurring. You know, we have the clay. Our region is very rich in clay deposits, and we mine our own clay from the side of the roads or the hills nearby, different colors, and just mixing them, you get different shades. You get it like dirt, you know, it's just like dirt with rocks and garbage, you know, out of the ground, and we mix it with a lot of water, let it soak, and then strain it, you know, using fabrics. That's pretty much it. It's very simple. It's hard work, you know, because you have to go and collect the clay, and not all the clays work by themselves. You pretty much have to mix it with other clay that already works for one or other characteristic of the clay. You know, like I was saying, this white clay has 3 types of clay. You know, one is very sticky and it really doesn't work by itself for hand building, and then the other one is very dry. And so you mix it and you balance, you know, the properties of the clay. Then we have another one that is whiter than the 2 of them, and we have to add it to create an extra whiteness on the clay. But we don't really add much, you know, not even for temper. It's just what's in the clay that works. The pigments that we use are also natural occurring minerals like red iron oxide or yellow iron oxide, manganese oxide, and the white design that we do, like the big piece with the white design, you know, is just the white clay. That's the slip we use.
Yeah.
And our pieces are all handmade, pinched and coiled. So first we roll a small slab, you know, to fit into the base, to start with the bottom. I can use a roller, you know, but it's too small, you know, like I did with the other one. But if it's too small, it's just by hand, you know.
Like making tortillas.
Like tortillas or pizza.
Diego happens to be a very good cook as well.
More ceramics.
So you just pinch it into the base, and then start building from there with coils, scraping inside and outside to get an even finish. This is the piece I just finished earlier today, and it has a texture now because I scraped the outside with the serrated edge of the blade. But then after it stiffens up a little bit, then I'm going to use another blade with a fine edge just to take away the texture.
Yeah, this is steak knife. With no handle.
See, the coils you can roll on the table as well, you know. But if they're not too big, you can roll them just by hand. And like Laura said, or yeah, you asked earlier about slipping. So we don't do that. Our clay is pretty good about it. I mean, it just stays there. You have to be sure that you join well both pieces, you know, though, but you don't need to score and split. So here. I noticed in the collection that you have that you have mostly pots, you know, and that's what we're known for, you know, it's pottery, it's the vessels, you know, but there are some people doing figures, you know, and sculptures too, like animals and just abstract sculptures, bowls, plates, even tiles.
Do you use any of the tiles in houses or like on the outside?
No, no, it's just decoration, you know, it's partly because that's what we're known for, you know, it's just decorative pottery, but also because of the low temperature, you know, thing, you know. It's
So then my next question was going to be, do you fire it to a higher temperature to make it durable?
No,
You have to fire.
some of the red, they can be fired, like some of the red clays can be fired to a vitrified stage, or I don't know how to call it, but they lose the properties of our ceramics, you know. You wouldn't have the shine, you wouldn't have the detail of the painting. Mata Ortiz pottery is fairly young, you know, and it's still developing. So I think it's going to happen, you know, that at least some of the potters will start doing utilitarian stuff. Maybe not next year, but maybe in the next 5-10 years, you know. It's the same verse movement.
There's a problem is that it cuts through.
See, I'm using the spoon as a scraper, and they're great scrapers, you know, especially for close shapes. When you can't get your hand inside, you just get the spoon inside and start scraping from the inside.
What does the scraping do?
It's smoothing out and leaving like a straight surface. If you notice, like in that piece, you know, it's very evenly finished, and it's because we did a lot of scraping, but also we do sanding. The sanding is the next step in the process after the piece is dry. You sand off all the imperfections and leave a smooth finish, and you leave it so finished that it's done. You know, after sanding, you just can leave it and it's finished. You know, it has a nice texture, it's a nice look. Mostly because the clay is too fine, that allows you to work like that. On a coarser clay, even if you sand, you're gonna notice all the temper, the grog, the imperfections. But the way we prepare our clay, it allows us to leave it like that, just sanded. And some of my pieces are open, so I don't like to have a lot of contrast between the inside finish and the outside. If the outside is too dome, it's too clean, and the inside is so bumpy, then it's gonna distract from the piece. All plastic cards, like credit cards, that are not good anymore. You can just cut it, and they're great scrapers too, flexible, and they work great. The metal scrapers, the very thin metal scrapers, they're great, but if you have an extra piece of plastic, you don't have to buy that.
Yeah. You can use flashing too, like, they use it in roofing. It cuts really well. A lot of times they're just too big. You need a small one.
How thick are your sides?
Less than 1/4 of an inch. I'm gonna finish a little bit more and then cut, and then I'll show you. But maybe when it's dry, they get to about 1/8 of an inch. It depends on the size of the piece as well. Like bigger pieces, they have to be a little bit thicker. Smaller are thinner, so.
Diego, if you're looking at, as a buyer of Mata Ortiz pottery, what are the characteristics, the things that you look for to distinguish more skilled craftsmanship, if you will?
Well, the painted design should be the first. That should really make a difference.
By the intricacy of it?
Not really the intricacy, how well executed it is, and I can't say really the intricacy because some of my work is just one single line, so it's not very intricate, but it takes a lot to finish a piece with that little. Like that white piece over there, it has 3 sides designed, and it only has 2 lines on each side. So it's only 6 lines on the piece. But it's finished, and it's a little bit more complex, if not a lot more complex, to achieve that, and to make it look good, because it can be like the red piece next to it. It's overwhelming compared to the other one, but.
You're talking about the ones that are on display?
Yeah.
In the NERMA? Okay.
Yeah. But if you separate and don't compare the 2 of them, they both are finished and they both look nice and they're okay. But anyway, going back to the characteristics that make a nice Mata Ortiz piece, the thickness of the clay, it's another important thing, Again, I don't know if you have to make comparisons or not, but if you compare our pottery to other towns from Mexico, ours must be the thinnest, and same happens if you compare it to the Southwest pottery. It doesn't make one or the other better or worse, it's just different, and it's a characteristic for our pottery to be thin. So you can say that if it's a thick piece and it's coming out of Mata Ortiz, that there is something that is not quite good about it, Although it's not bad as I say, and it's balanced. If you look at a white piece over there, it doesn't have a ring to support it. It doesn't need it. It has to be balanced by itself. No. Or this one has the ring, but it doesn't have to have the ring. So they are balanced by themselves. And unless you want a shape that is not symmetric, then it can move, like I don't know how flat this is, but and the bottom is very much round, so.
Yeah.
And they're all hand-built?
They are all hand-built the same way. And earlier today I said that our process and techniques are very traditional, and like ourselves, we're using about 50-50 for the firings. 50% of our pieces we do with electric kiln, which is not traditional and which we don't care about. But the building of the pieces is 100% hand-built for everybody in Mata Ortiz. Nobody uses a throwing wheel. Why? I don't know. It's just the way we learned, and I don't think anybody is interested. We started using electric kilns, because some pieces take so long to finish. As I said earlier, like the red piece over there, it took me 31 days to finish, and I'm not gonna raise that with cardon. But other than that, it's all traditional.
Yeah, if you've been working for a month, the whole month, and it's windy or it's snowing, you don't want to risk all the work, and you have to give support to your family, or you cannot risk more.
Have you tried throwing, or you just don't do it?
I have tried. Yeah.
With this clay?
This clay is not good for throwing. I have done it when I've been out, and I've had access to a wheel just for fun, but this clay is not good for throwing. And friends of mine that do throw, they have tried with it, and they say it tears. It doesn't have enough plasticity.
For those of you who just came in, you're welcome to walk up and watch what they're doing, because it's not always easy to see it on the screen here, so don't be afraid to walk up there and check out the pieces of it.
We make our own brooches. It's human hair, so it's a big pen. We clean it, we took off the ink, and so we put the human hair in the middle. So that's what we can use.
In case you didn't get that, it's human hair in a big pen. Earlier, they passed around all, the tools, the pens.
Don't try it at home. It's very elaborate.
Amazing.
What techniques do you use to make your pieces symmetric?
Just practice. That's out of practice. It's just by practice. You have to work and work over. Same as if you were throwing, I'm sure,
Sorry?
Once you're done here, is that
the
finished?
more you work with it, the better you get.
No, yeah, we have to fire after. The fire is the last step in the process. Yeah. I'm painting, then after I finish, I will file.
Diego, how about talking about Carla's, and let her to talk about her miniatures and her awards and everything?
Well, Carla's been working full time only for the last 2.5, 3 years. She's not originally from Mata Ortiz, and she became a potter when we married, I guess. And for the last 2 years, she's been entering her pieces to the competitions. We do have an annual pottery competition in Mata Ortiz with about 8 or 10 categories, and one of them is miniatures. So she's won first prize for the last 3 years on miniatures. So, and if you think about it, it's quite difficult. If you have over 500 potters, that's all they have done all their lives, all their working lives. They have been a potter, and then Carla in just 2 years, she has taken it. It's, but I think that's what Doug says. That's when engineering comes into being, because we have the mindset for innovation and the strive for quality, and I think it helps a lot. We incorporate a lot of the iconography of the Casas Grandes pottery into our own. As I said earlier today, that culture disappeared, and so the designs of the old ceramics don't really have a meaning for us. We're pretty sure they should have had a meaning for the people who made them and for the culture, but not for us. So most of what we do is just incorporate those old designs into our own, and it's mostly abstract. It's just decoration on the pieces.
I know we asked Carla earlier, but do you, Diego, when you paint on yours, do you know exactly what you're going to do, or is it like kind of stream of consciousness, like you decide as you're going what it's going to be?
No, more and more often I've been not sketching, but well, maybe sketching in my mind, what I want, but it never really comes out 100% as you want it. I mean, that happens for all kind of art, I'm sure, that you can sketch ideas and then change them, as you keep working on them. Especially with clay, because I'm thinking about a shape, and then I'm starting making it, and sometimes it's not even that I don't want to do it anymore, but I just can't, and it's just a matter of being able or not. Like with the knot piece, the piece over there, it was so difficult because of the characteristics of our clay. It was so difficult to keep the shape. I finally was able to finish it, but maybe I don't know. The first one that I planned was a different type of knot. That's like a square knot. And I first tried to make a single knot. It's like let's think of this as a pipe, and you just make a knot, a simple knot, and it was going to be standing out with a knot in here, like wide. I just couldn't make that one. I'm gonna try again, but then I found it was easier to make a square knot than a simple one. Sometimes it happens as it was planned, but that is almost rare.
Diego, is it at this stage that if you wanted to create, if you wanted to cut out and create space in the pot, is this during the stage you would do that, or?
No, I've been waiting more and more until it's bone dry.
Okay.
And you can cut with a saw or even a Dremel tool. Our clay is very good, for that. But right now it's too soft.
Okay.
Even when it's leather hard and it's strong enough to hold the shape, it still has enough humidity that it's still shrinking. So it might break, as it shrinks, and take the wrong shape, So I'd rather wait till it's completely dry.
Will you have a piece that we'll be able to see some burnishing?
Yeah, that one. Just when I'm done with this, and it'll be soon.
In the community, we are more than 500 potters working with the clay, but around or between 25 and 30 is real artistic work. The rest of the people is like making the same all the time, or some of them are copying or working, but different, But between 25 and 30 potters are creating real art and creating in all the world, all what the world is placed.
Because both of you have work, in museums worldwide, right?
I don't have. I have not in the U.S. I have some work in Mexico and good museums, but not in the U.S. Probably better. I've been working on full time only for 3 years. So.
You still have time, Carla.
Yes, I know.
Do you have pieces, Diego, and like?
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. There's a lot of people in Mata Ortiz who's making relevant work, relevant to Mata Ortiz and to the art world. And they're not known at all.
Right.
It's almost sad, because you go to these houses. I'm sure you remember the Villalbas. You get into their house, it's so humble, and the work they make is so beautiful, and it's crushing. You say, God, their work. Maybe one of the brothers of that family is got his work into collections in museums, but a lot of the people in Mata Ortiz belong to that. It's
Do you give demonstrations? Have you given demonstrations like this at Insica?
yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I went to
The
Tampa.
projections. And, yeah.
No, I went to Tampa. I've been in Phoenix, Tampa, and what was the other one before?
Philadelphia.
No.
Seattle. Did you go there? No.
Houston, not Houston. No. Okay, in Tampa, I did a demo for the one area they have. Is not like the main stage. They have like installation projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, instead of doing an installation, I was demonstrating there.
You may have done a demo in Phoenix then, right?
No, that was in Tampa.
Okay.
That's I don't know where I heard your name or saw your
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, I've been to a number of them, but it may have been in Phoenix. I don't know.
I think I'm coming to Kansas.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I got an invitation.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned copying. Is that a real issue? Like if someone's piece is very popular, does someone else copy it? Because I've seen
I've
seen that in other communities.
no, you just picture that. It's a big potter's community in a small town, and everybody is trying to market their work. And as Carla put it, not everybody is working at a high level. A lot of people is making souvenir-like pottery, and it's not a problem. If it is a problem, it's only because you're doing well, and only what's worth is being copied. So it's like flattery in a way, That's the way I see it. It's a way to flatter you if you're making good work, and it only creates more promotion. I don't think those who are doing it mean any harm, or I don't think they want to hurt you. It's just their way to market their work. Oh, we have a white Hershey here.
Do you close at the top to sort of keep that air inside to give it some structure while you're working on the outside?
No, I just wanted the shape, I could have left it open like that.
You'll eventually put a hole in it.
Yeah, on the bottom, or the top, or wherever, but it needs to have an exhaust valve.
Yeah. So were both your mother and your father, did they do this?
No, I'm the first potter in my close family. Then Carla is doing it now. Then my brother is doing it too. It was fun for my brother because he never really wanted to help me. Like I was doing it to sell my work while I was in high school and middle school, and I would work only on weekends and holidays. And my brother, I always fought my brother. He's little, he's younger than I am, and then I always say, you never help. He didn't have to. It was my work, it was my job, and I don't know now why I wanted then him to help me. It's.
Years later.
Yeah.
Later.
Anyway, I went on a scholarship to Australia for over a year. And when I came back, my brother was making pots, and I said, "What's going on?" You know, he never even wanted to help, much less to finish a piece. Then later on, I realized he had sold all my broken, awful-looking pots that I've been saving in the storage room. And he said, "Well, if I could sell your shitty work, you know, why?" I figured out I could make myself.
He's painting now.
He's
beautiful.
Yeah, he's making
birds.
beautiful stuff now. You know? He's making mostly landscapes and mostly birds, like very real on the pots. You know, just the basic shape with birds. It's so beautiful and very well executed. And he's just learning too. You know, I mean, he didn't take. That's even harder, you know, because even if he uses mason stains, you know, which don't really change colors, some of them do, you know, after the firing. And for him to figure out, with now classes about it, you know, how the colors will work, and to picture the final design, you know, before it's finished and with a complete different color, is pretty amazing. Well, this is pretty much finished for now, but I'm gonna show how you can do cuts, you know, or open spaces in your pieces. This is not gonna last because it's still very wet, but I use a lot of the yin and yang motif, you know, in my pieces. Sometimes it's not very obvious, you know, but a lot of my pieces have that.
So what are you cutting with?
I'm using this is too soft. This is not what I normally do at home. So this is still soft for a needle to cut. But
She's using a syringe.
That's what I thought.
Would you normally burnish before doing that?
no, I don't even, I sand, if this was dry, bone dry, I need to sand before cutting. I don't need, but the less I sand after I have the cuts, the better, because that's when I break most of my pots. You know, you have to really apply pressure when you're sanding, and if the pot is open, then it's more likely to break. See, it's about a 1/4 inch. And then you have to sand all the edges, you know, to have a smooth finish. It's all about not being afraid to do what you want. And not really being afraid of making mistakes, you know. Some of my best pieces, or what I consider to be my best pieces, have come out of mistakes, you know, like a piece that broke and it took a nice shape, and then you elaborate on that, of course. I mean, the first time that it broke, it just gave me the good idea for what it should have been, you know.
So you're picking that up, Carla, and it doesn't smear. It doesn't like.
Que si no manchas con la mano.
No, it's no problem.
Porque está seca.
No, because it's dry.
Yeah, but our outside is powdery.
Yeah, but probably it's because I'm not like pressing or too much.
See?
Mm.
Well, you have a nice bowl.
Nice.
See?
Nice. Who gets that one?
Whoever fires it.
Whoever.
Well, you can basically do anything, can you? I mean,
It's not collapsing.
oh, it won't. And these can survive
Yeah.
to the firing stage if you let it dry slow. Maybe what we do at home, because it's very dry climate, we dry our pieces inside cardboard boxes, or even cover them with plastic, you know, which will slow down more than the drying. The only problem is if it dries too fast, then it tends to separate, to break apart.
That piece, how long did you dry it for? When you're working on?
1 hour and a half, maybe.
Parece.
No, it's been drying, you mean?
No, how long would you normally dry that piece to get it bone dry?
3 days, yeah, at least.
Can you do the drying process and then you go on vacation and not do anything with it for 3 weeks or a month or something? And
Yeah.
it's still okay it's not important to then 3 or 4 days start sanding or something, you can just leave
No.
it once.
No, and usually we sort of accumulate pieces on the drying stage. Yeah, you can come back to them, you know, as you need. Like, the winter is very bad for us to make the clay, especially if you don't have a place or like a big place to process the clay without letting it frozen or freeze, because then it doesn't work. So I make a lot of the clay in advance, and then I try to make few pieces, maybe 5, 7 pieces, and then work on them. You know, so the last piece I finished of that batch waited probably for a couple of months to be sanded.
When you take the clay out of the ground and you've sieved it through the cloth and everything, how long do you let it age for a period of time? Like let it sit and get bacteria in it, and so it's more workable, or do you just start?
No, our clay has naturally a lot of organic materials and bacteria, you know, that makes it plastic enough.
Right.
Yeah, so we don't really let it be aged, but you know, like I say, I try to prepare a lot of clay,
Yeah.
like, so I don't work with it on the winter. Like I just finished, before coming here, my last cleaning clay, and I have like 7, 8 buckets, that should last till next year.
That size, like 5 gallon?
No, like maybe like 5 of these. This is a gallon or 2?
Let's say 2 gallon, 2.5 gallon.
Yeah, maybe 10 gallon
Yeah.
buckets, and they should last till May.
Wow.
Yeah.
I noticed you keep all your scraps.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Like, and I wedge them right away. This is already not workable. It's too dry here.
I wish I
But
could teach my students that the amount of clay that gets wasted.
oh yeah.
barrels of
Oh, the
clay.
first in Phoenix was the first NC I went, and it was shocking to me to see all the waste of clay they had. I say,
It's
oh.
like, you have to throw it away.
So how do you reconstitute it then so that you can use it?
Like in cases like this, I just wedge this again, before it gets dry. But if it's dry, then I soak it in water again, and then I don't have to sieve it again. It's just, I just let it dry more. See, I use a piece of paper at the bottom for, it allows it to come out of the plaster easier. And then the edge, the rape that you have here, you have to remove.
What tool do you use to cut when it's bone dry?
I can use just a blade, like just a saw blade, or you can use a Dremel tool for details. You always have to sand at the end, and finish up all the details with sandpaper.
I want to send you all home with a respirator.
For all the sanding.
Yeah.
¿Vas a pulir?
Pues para que no esté mal. Si quieres hacer tú algo así.
¿Qué molde?
No, haz una miniatura chiquita así, pues. Carla's gonna show you how she makes one of her little ones, and then I'm gonna do some burnishing on that one.
If you need more water or warmer water, I can get you some warm water.
No, we should be fine, thank you. No quieres algo aquí, ¿verdad? Es este, no,
Do you have a lot of pieces that are collaborative?
No, we don't. We don't do collaborations much. We've done. That's the 4th piece that we have worked on, and the cylinder over there with the lid. That's the 3rd one.
It's a key to a healthy marriage.
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. When she started working on her pottery, I was making some of her miniatures. She was never happy. I said, "Well, dear, you have to learn to make your own." And she did, and it's much better.
Yeah.
But to me, it's amazing. I have made miniatures, but not that size. My miniatures are almost like that one over there. And it's unbelievable to realize that they are hollow.
Yeah.
Pieces like this, and you feel them,
Super light. So it's like a millimeter thick. So how do you you do that with your fingernails again?
I was just thinking that.
Well, ask her. She doesn't bite.
With my
Yeah, los, yeah.
little nails.
Yeah. She's not going to tell you.
¿Cómo le haces con tus
¿Cómo?
uñas?
Es muy difícil.
No.
No? You don't ever cut them?
No.
No.
No. Usually, I don't use long nails when I'm working, making the pottery. When I'm painting, it's not problem to me. When I'm making the pottery, it's easier without nails.
Mm.
Nails.
Nails.
I don't know what you're doing.
I'm gonna use oil. This is just mineral oil that you can use for wood, to protect wood. And here is gonna be a little bit more tricky because we have already done the varnishing we sort of wanted. And I don't wanna oil the parts that we have already varnished.
Mm.
¿Por qué tiene limpio?
Porque le habías empezado a hacer otra línea y hasta ahí la dejaste.
No, Carla, esto.
Ah, no sé. No, yo no lo he usado.
Has usado tú y yo, pero no sé
It's the
cuándo.
first time I've ever seen oil used for varnishing.
Ah, cuando pintaste la bolita blanca el pico.
No, con esta. Sí, lo sé.
No sé.
It looks like I didn't clean it and I have already used a red paint here. Maybe one of the girls, because none of us recall having used it for painting.
So what's wrong?
See, it had already paint.
Oh.
It's not a problem. It will be okay. But
Yeah.
Got a little red tint to it.
yep, might be nice.
kids.
Might be something we plan out next time.
There you go. It might be the best piece you ever made.
Now, do you fire it after you put the oil on or no?
Yeah, but this is bone dry. This is not fire. It hasn't
Okay.
been fired. We only fire once.
Once you put the oil on it, can you still go back over it with the sigillata, the iron,
Sure.
and it'll stick?
You're gonna see this is only the beginning for this. So.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to do? Of all the parts of the process, is there one thing that you just love?
¿Cuál es, Carla?
I really like paint.
Is there one thing you hate? Is there like something you kind of dread? Like you're gonna do it anyway, but you kind of don't want to.
Sanding. Everybody must hate sanding, you know.
I don't like it. It's too dusty and
Respirator.
Respirator.
They don't use it. No.
It's still dusty.
It's still dusty, you know, and
It's been like 400 grains of sandpaper.
it's not something creative. It's like sweeping your house. You know, it look better if you do it, but you really don't want to do it. Well, once you apply the oil, you have to let the clay absorb it. And then once it has absorbed the oil and you see it, because it stops shining, it doesn't shine anymore. You can see it's kind of wet, but it's not shiny. Then you apply water and then burn it.
Water over where you've oiled it.
What kind of oil do you use?
No, well,
Mineral.
Yeah. Or the brush?
yeah.
yeah. No me dijiste que se hacía
not too bad. Don't worry.
Is it quiet in your studio?
Yes, very much.
Everything is very quiet. You don't have music playing or anything?
Nothing, no kids, nothing, no washer and dryer. We have, the studio is very small. We have 2 kids, you know, the 6 and 4 years old daughters, and the washer and the dryer. The 4 of them at the same time in the same room. Forget it. And I like music. I cannot work without music.
Oh, no.
And
Watch your son.
And it gets worse, Laura. I like to sing and I can't sing.
Well, you sting anyway, no one's going to care except her. I just want to let you guys know, since Doug told me to remind you that tomorrow is the third Thursday at the Nerman, 3:30 to 4:30. So if you can make it, you'll hear a lot more about Diego and Carla's work, and they'll show you some images of, you know, in progress and finished pieces also. And there are 3 large pieces as you walk in to the Nerman that they've made, and so you get to see those as well.
There's no open studio tomorrow
No.
either, so you're all free to go back.
That's like I skipped Casey's class.
See, this is from my last trip to LA. I did a demo there, and a girl.
She gave it to you?
Yeah, she was donating her hair to kids with cancer or
Lots
something.
of love, yeah.
And she said, "Oh, you should have some."
Aw.
But this is great hair for my brushes.
Yeah.
Our brushes.
Do you find different like ethnicities? I mean, like Asians like have thick hair. Do you have a preference or?
The only thing is that they have thick, nice, but they have very straight hair, and that's the most important thing in the
Yeah.
brushes. You know, straight hair.
So do you try
Nobody
to?
better than the Asians before that.
Yeah, or Native American, like certain tribes they have real thick hair. Is there a certain hair? you try
We
to
have
get?
a good supply of kids in Mata Ortiz.
Yeah.
They're all bald.
Both of our daughters, you know. Our daughters have kind of curly, wavy hair.
Yeah.
And then my brother lives next door and he has 2 kids too. The older is a daughter and wavy hair. And we finally got lucky with the 4th kid in the family. Straight hair.
So now your girls are bald. They're like.
No, we can't use theirs because it's wavy, you know, it needs to be straight hair.
Maybe you can get good designs with it.
Yeah. See, the paint came out of the brush.
Oh yeah.
I didn't expect that, but
Your children did that. They
I
contaminated.
assume because I don't use this for other than oils, and it had paint. So I'm gonna outline with a Q-tip, you know, what I wanna varnish.
Outline it with what?
Q-tip, that is water.
Water?
Yeah, over the oil.
It is bad lighting. We have to have a steady hand.
Then I'm gonna finish up, you know, the line, you know, with paint to make it straighter. See, before the water dries completely, then you start varnishing.
Now, what are you doing again?
Varnishing it with a rock, stone.
And you varnish only over the water area.
And that's what makes it shiny?
What happens if you don't use the water?
It doesn't really varnish.
So what is the oil for then?
It prevents the water to go too deep into the clay and breaking.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
What it happens, you probably know more about this than I do. You know, it loosens up the molecules on the top
Mhm.
layer, you know,
Yeah.
and then helps
Yeah.
the alignment for the shine.
I thought you were using the oil for the burnishing. Okay,
The,
we're filling
the
in.
gray color, is that underglaze or is that just the clay body itself?
The red,
No,
Gray.
the gray, is that the clay body?
that's a clay body, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, this is the clay body. It's just
And you made the gray too, right?
no, it's just different shades, you know, because of the burnish and unburnished areas.
No, I mean the clay body, you made it the gray.
Yeah, but it's gonna be brown after fire,
Okay.
totally brown.
you go over it just once or like several times?
Um,
God,
Maybe
there's the
twice.
edge of that thing. Wow.
With what you're doing, will that take the red out or no?
a little bit, not the burnishing actually, but see the fabric is getting the paint out.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Do you ever have problems with it peeling off?
Yep, you can do it easily.
Hmm. What kind of stone is that again? Agate or
This is jasper,
jasper?
and this is the agate. So it just has to be a strong rock, you know, with non-porous.
Right. He has these, a rock shop locally, cut the rocks for him to make the specific shape and sculpture. I think that'd be pretty important, getting the right shape and.
What makes it go shiny when you rub it?
What makes it look shiny?
Why does it turn shiny?
The molecules on the clay, they get compact, and they align, and they reflect the light.
Is the heat from rubbing it?
No,
Just compression.
yeah, the compression.
So how many times do you go over it?
Only twice. I mean, I've done it once here, and a little bit later, before it completely dries, then I go over.
Do you do the water again?
No, just with the rock then. See, you don't even need to paint to have already a design there. And you can have it as intricate as you want to go for. Usually we wear gloves because you leave prints on the burnish area. So I try not to touch it.
Just regular latex or nitrile gloves?
Yeah, you can use latex, or I prefer clothes, because then your hats don't get sweaty.
Okay.
And somebody asked this morning, I don't know, if my pottery was hollow, and it is. It's not only a piece of clay.
It's
shape,
not solid yet.
Yeah.
Then as they dry, you still have to work on them, reshaping and
Yes.
perfecting the shape.
Your pieces are so small, they must dry really fast.
Yeah, probably a day,
Yeah.
day and a half.
Do you split your time between maybe half a day you make some of those and then the other half you do painting?
Oh yeah, because probably it's gonna be dry in a day or 2 days, but I have to be sure that it's completely dry before sand.
Yeah.
Don't break
Right.
the piece.
Yeah. But I mean, even for your peace of mind, so you're not doing just that all in one day, making
Oh, no.
a bunch? No.
No, I can make 3 work on it,
Right.
and after I
So I think
can
you
make
get
more.
bored doing the same, you want to do some painting,
Oh yeah,
do some building, yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Well, I need the clay to absorb more the oil, and then I can do another varnishing and kind of get rid of the stripes that I'm leaving with the rock.
Do you use a different side of the stone? Then do you go to a flat? Do you ever use a flat?
No, I always use the rim here, but the different profiles are also different surfaces. Like if I want to do this part, it's better with this part instead of this,
Right.
because it fits there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do a few of the long lines.
So how many pieces of gear would you want to do?
For the lines that Carla is doing, she has only 2 bristles. But this one has about 15. I'm going to make long, thicker lines.
How do you keep those all from spreading out like that?
That's a good characteristic or quality of human. It stays together.
Sometimes, yeah.
Diego, we've lost track. Is that not been fired?
No.
No. Once you fire one of our pieces, you're done.
You're done.
No.
Yeah.
I was thinking the pressure you were putting on burnishing it.
Yeah, the clay is very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. From here, so that the camera can get a close up.
Oh. be harder to work in that angle.
Sabes que esta tapadera tiene, está pegajosa. The trick is to get over the same line a second or a third time, you know, depending on the.
Wow.
How do you get the hair to stay in the pen?
It's dropped between the pieces. You know, the big pen has three main pieces. You take the ink and the ballpoint out, you have left these three pieces that assemble together, fit into each other from the smaller to the bigger one, and the hair goes in through the ballpoint hole and then comes out of that piece, and then you assemble it and it's trapped between the pieces.
So whose hair is that you're using?
Nephews. Yeah, the nephew that we got lucky with, straight hair.
Nephew.
We're lucky that we can still bribe him with cookies.
Your hair looks pretty straight.
You've heard of the redheaded stepchild, right?
Carla's hair, yours just looks, I mean, I don't know if you curl it, but it looks pretty straight.
Yeah, but looks like, but when you curl the human, it's not gonna be straight.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Or you can take turns and come and have a closer look if you
come
want.
closer, you should see
Yes.
this. It's incredible. You can't see that well on the screen. Wow. That's just cool. There's 15 years of. Yeah, man.
It's interesting how long those hairs are that you're using such long bristles.
How did you come by such a exact number of hairs?
It doesn't have to be that exact number, you know, just.
I mean, you said 15 hairs, so I didn't know.
Because I know that's what I use for this one, but I probably already lost one or two, so it doesn't really have to be an exact number. Carla has to, on the other hand, because her lines are so precise that if she misses one, then it's half of the brush is gone, and then you can't paint anymore.
You don't drink coffee, do you?
Yeah, all
A
the
lot
time.
of
Coffee. I'm trying to quit though.
You don't shake though, you're shaking. Oh, I do too. It'd be hard not to drink coffee and then you go, it's so good.
I wouldn't make a good Mormon.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
To drink too much coffee.
Yeah. Who cares?
Did you just develop your techniques or did you learn from someone else?
We learn from somebody else because in Mata Ortiz, most of the people makes the pottery we do in the town we live. And I learned from my neighbors, like the basics when I was a kid, and then I just developed my own style. But everybody is pretty much using the same technique, you know, pinch, coil, handbill pottery, and sanding, varnishing, painting, human hair brushes, and everybody's got their own little twist, you know, on tools and techniques, you know, but it's basically the same.
How did you figure out the whole hair and ballpoint pen thing?
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Have they been doing that for a long time? Also, is that another technique that you learned?
Oh, I think there is only us, and that's only us. Maybe that we know of. I mean, we don't visit everybody in town, but it just feels natural, you know. I mean, you're used to holding a big pen forever. So
I'm sure if I tried to make that, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, the ad stuff does it, but still. Diego, have there been any artists trying to pass their work off as Mata Ortiz that aren't there in Mata Ortiz?
well, there are some things that that I personally have an issue with. You know, like there is a couple of potters in Casas Grandes, you know, the next town. And my problem with them is that they don't use, like, they paint with acrylic after the piece is fired. That's not so Mata Ortiz, you know. It's and the problem is that they don't. They still sell it as real Mata Ortiz, and it is not that.
Yeah.
So you don't have any sort of ability to, as a collective group of potters, to
We do and
say
we
it's
don't.
authentic?
We do and we don't. We have an association or an organization that kind of regulates, but it doesn't really do it because we live in a very small place. Everybody knows everybody, and somebody's gonna be upset with somebody. At a point, you know, it's very tricky. You know, it's a very small little town,
Yeah.
and it's very tricky. It's like a big family. You know, you can't tell your sister not to do this to their kids. You know, it's like it's strange. So then, it is up to the potters, you know, to tell what's good or not. You know, like when you were asking. So if you have two pieces and one you realize it's been painted with acrylic, that's not us. You know, it's gonna peel off at a point, or it's gonna decolor, and that's not what our ceramics are.
Diego, what defines the barrios in Mata Ortiz? What
Mostly families.
What?
Mostly families. You know, like
Family lines?
sort of, not really. Family, friendships, and of location, of course.
Yeah. What'd you say? There's 4, 5, 6 something?
Neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Porvenir, where we live, the Porvenir barrio, you know, that's mostly Sandoval and Ortiz families. Sandoval, Ortiz, and Silveira families.
Yeah.
It is strange, you know, like I was telling you earlier today, you know, I disagree to a point with the way that our history has been presented. And in a way, the way Mata Ortiz history, pottery related, has been presented to mostly the American audience, you know, it's created some troubles for us because, like, not everybody learned from Juan.
Right.
As a matter of fact, very few learn from him.
Yeah.
You know, directly, very few learn from him. I mean, we all probably learned something from him indirectly over the time. And then if people coming out of Mata Ortiz, whether it's a potter or just somebody who's presenting a lecture about Mata Ortiz, and he comes out and says, well, Juan taught everybody, and that's been said, you know, in many ways, not just like that, you know, not just saying he taught everybody. But what happened to, let's say, the potters from Porvenir, where I come from, you know, that were part of the very first group part of the first 5 or 6 potters. So the other 4, they are left aside. And even if they didn't grow as much as Juan as artists, or even if they stop at a point very early making pottery, they still made a lot of this possible. And it's like denying them, and it's only because of the way history has been presented. And it doesn't mean that whoever did it meant any bad or wrong. I'm pretty sure all they did was trying to help and promote. But we have to be very careful when we talk about these things, because whomever is coming out, not only for Mata Ortiz, you know this, for your own history, the world history, we have to be very respectful to the local communities, to the natives, and especially if you don't belong to that community, you have to be even more careful because of all of these issues, It's hard even to explain sometimes. But anyway, what was the first question?
No, it's just interesting when you consider the small size of Mata Ortiz.
Yeah, the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like if you had 4 or 5 people, you'll have these issues.
Yeah. Well, it's like a big family,
Yeah.
It's just like a big family. But it's fun, it's interesting, and it's so interesting to live there and see what's going on, realize what's going on.
Especially when you're making a lot of what's going on happen.
Well, not really. I mean, there's a lot of people moving and doing stuff, and it's great.
Were you born in the community?
No, my family is from there, but I was born in Palomas. It's a border town, hellhole Palomas. It's a small little dusty town between Juarez and Douglas. And we moved to Mata Ortiz right away. Oops. I'm just outlining the burnished areas. It's coming out nice. See, and there are at least a couple more techniques for burnishing that you can do after you do this, and create a stronger sheen.
And this is just using different stones.
You can use soap, for example. That's a whole different thing. No water, just soap and the rock.
Yeah. What do you do with your demos?
The ones that I make, they pretty much stay where I make them. Like, you're gonna keep this for your studio, and if they make it, they might not survive. You can keep them. And this, we take this home. Yeah, keep working on it. Pretty much. I mean, we could keep working, but it's gonna be for what we have. It's part of the same.
Right.
So if you have more questions or. You wanna try a line? You're welcome. You wanna feel the clay?
I wouldn't do So,
Well, something else that
yeah.
you might want to see that we can show you how to do. I can't think of more right now.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be other things. I've really appreciated, and I know everybody else has, I speak on their behalf. We really appreciate your sharing, your secrets with us and trusting.
Well, I'm gonna show you one more trait before we go. What time is it? We have time, right?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanna leave.
25 minutes, but you don't have to do it that long.
Are you gonna leave one of your brushes with Laura?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could.
Oh, yeah. You are always wanting brushes, Laura.
I would never ask Diego for his brushes.
Oh, I can make more than
That's his
work.
nephew's hair.
He's related to those, but those are family.
Found with treasures.
I just want to know how to make it. Like, you told me, but I'm like, I just can't picture it in my head.
I'm gonna leave one with Laura and then.
Take a big pen apart and then you
I've done that before.
No, you can figure it out.
I don't
See-
know. I don't have faith in myself.
Yeah.
I have a piece of soap here.
Yeah.
Not all the soaps work, so you'll have to try with the clays that you have. You have to find the specific soap that works.
So what is that, Irish Spring?
It looks like, but it's another brand, and we don't have Irish Spring in Mexico, but it might be the same thing. Who knows? It's green.
Yeah.
Does it smell like mint?
Does it smell like Irish Spring?
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
It's like Irish before.
It looks like Irish
Then
Spring.
I just grind it a little bit,
It's not
and
Irish
then
Spring.
get the soap dust with the paper.
Oh, you scrape it, okay.
And gently rub it on the place you want to varnish. And you see I'm varnishing one more. I'm going to varnish over the design that she did.
Ooh.
And so it's going to look like a decal. And that's probably what these judges I was referring to earlier today
Yeah.
didn't realize.
It's gonna look like a what?
Decal, like
Decal.
shiny design.
Shiny, okay, a decal.
Decal, yeah, my English.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
So that's just fixing on the surface so you don't.
It's a wax.
Then I get another rope that I can.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit.
That's agate.
Yeah, and it's finer, so I
Super
can make more
hard.
detail.
I have to watch it because my students are gonna ask, how do you do this? How do you do this again? No agua, no water.
No?
No.
No, because otherwise you wipe off the design.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Wow, she must really trust you to do that over her design. That could break up your marriage.
And everywhere where we go to talk or do the classes, everybody is excited with the pen, with the big pen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody is excited with the brushes.
Well, it is, it's fascinating.
Trademark those.
It's like, how can you have that idea?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I don't even have the eyesight to see. So you take the ball out of the ball point? Yeah, and then you stick it in there and it's held in with tension.
Yep. Yes and no. No, look at.
Does it go all the way through, todo?
Yeah. Maybe here you can see. See, it's coming in and out of the same place. It's
Right in the
coming
ball
out.
point. You have to
Here.
get the ball out. See, the,
I'm gonna have to draw this probably.
oh
but
my God.
Yeah,
Here.
diagram.
See, the hair is coming out of.
Oh,
here.
yeah, the side. Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay.
So it's coming in, out, and then you assemble the piece, and then the hair is
Press.
trapped there.
But you take the little ball out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I got it.
We're gonna get all the ink out. Now, have you used dyed hair?
It doesn't work, it tears apart, it breaks.
Okay,
Yeah, that's why we prefer kids.
sure.
They don't know we're stuff to themselves, you know.
How long of a piece do you usually use for the hair?
the brushes.
Oh, I know,
You
I
see-
saw that,
¿Cuánto
they're
tiempo
like,
se la dosis?
but how much longer do you have it, you know, to be able to get that length?
It only goes like an eighth of an inch. It comes out the little side.
Okay.
But did you say how long can you use that brushes?
No. She's asking
The length of the hair.
Okay.
like cuántos centimeters.
Yeah, it's depending what you wanna.
Yeah, this one is about an inch and a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mine is probably
1 centimeter.
1 centimeter. Yeah.
I live in Asian.
And then
Yes, Jim.
how long do you use it?
How long? Yeah, until the hair is not absorbing more the paint.
Usually they break apart, you know, they
Yeah.
come off the brush.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the hair is straight.
Yeah, because you say the pieces are no longer than 2 inches. There you go.
How long does it take to fire those pieces?
Is like between 45 and 50 minutes.
Yeah, less than an hour.
So Diego, how did you discover that this soap thing works?
Somebody else did in Mata Ortiz.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whom, but they told us about it.
You wonder how those things, how they discover.
Yeah, I remember my mother once came back from the store and she told me somebody's varnishing with soap because at the store there was somebody, and she didn't know who that was, buying soap, this kind of soap for, it's called Nordico soap, you know, they say it was for varnishing. I said, soap? I don't think so, Mom, you heard bad, you know, she's not a bird. I said, no, you didn't hear well. And then later on, somebody else told me, and then I saw everybody was doing it, you know.
Did you go back and tell your mom that she was right?
Oh yeah, she knows now, yeah.
She reminds you every day. See, I told you so.
Yeah.
How long have you been making pottery?
Full time for 7 years, since 2006.
And
Yeah.
part-time?
Yeah, I started when I was 9.
How old were you when you sold your first piece?
12. I sold it for a peso, 1 peso, which is like a tenth of a dollar, or like,
10 cents.
yeah. To my neighbor Debbie.
Oh, yeah.
She's an American that retired to Mata Ortiz. She didn't retire, she went there. And she's an artist, and she was making dolls, and she was buying little pots for her dolls, you know, that like they were painting or doing something, and she was buying little pieces from kids like me, I guess.
And now they're selling for thousands more.
Yeah,
That's
they're
awesome.
What's the most expensive piece you sold?
Well, the galleries are making good profit. I don't. Why? They can be 12, 15,000.
The galleries sometimes take half.
Yeah, galleries
Tack
take
on double.
50 or 60%. So
So you double it.
we still do well. I'm very happy that we're not rich, but we have everything we need. And what else you need, you know, other than having your house and being able to pay your kids' education. We're paying for an expensive school for our kids, and we have a good home. And we're still working.
Well, and your clay's free, you know.
The clay is free, that's right. You know. Cow chips are free too, you know. So.
Your paintbrushes are free, so you have a very low overhead.
Does everybody use the same clay pit?
No, but different potters use different sources, but a lot of them are used by different potters, or a lot of potters, and some of them have their own private precious mines or
Yeah.
whatever.
Is it like fishing spots? Nobody wants to tell the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Clays, clays like some of them, like you saw in the collection, there is a blue
Yes.
or a green clay there,
Yes, yes.
or a green piece.
Mm.
Those have been stained with mason stains.
Oh,
But before people knew, everybody was wondering, oh, where the hell did he get that green clay?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
So he stains the clay?
yeah, well, it's still wet like that. You mix it with the mason stain.
Without respirator.
Yeah, those, I don't like those. First of all, I don't like personally those colors, but if you're working, sanding a clay like that, with those
Yeah, it's
minerals, blues, and
Yeah.
you don't want that in your lungs.
You want to be around for your kids.
Yeah. For yourself.
Well,
Don't worry about your kids, They're gonna be young and healthy, and you're gonna be suffering.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
What happens when the town runs out of clay? Right?
It's gold.
It'll be war. No, the region is big, and the clay deposits are so rich. We have a lot.
Well, it runs through veins. Clay runs through
Like
veins.
gold.
But there are places that have been run out of clay. Like there was this specific white clay that is by warm springs. Springs. Coming water, hot springs. It was a nice white clay, and it's gone.
Yeah.
It wasn't too big. I'm sure it is still there somewhere around. We just haven't found it.
Right.
But that one's gone, and other white clays were found. So it's just fun and interesting.
So you just run around with a shovel and see what you find?
Yeah, very much.
There's a lot of empty territory out there that you can
To dig more towards water.
Yeah.
When you're searching for clay, do you go where there's water?
Yeah, not right now, not when we're digging, but clay is usually close to water. Yeah.
Sediment.
So maybe by an empty wash or a creek, on a road, on the road, where they cut the mountains, and you can see the different layers. Then you find, where it's been.
There's a lot of it here too. Turns brilliant red. You can't just look at it. It starts green and it turns brilliant red.
Oh, you go down to Oklahoma, they have a lot of red.
Thing is, our clay's not red, but it turns red.
See, that's another thing.
That's just where you put the soap.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then you can see the design through the sheen, it's like.
And when that goes through the firing process?
The shine, the longer you fire them, or the harder it fires, then the less it stays. But you can, with experience, in practice, you can still keep it,
It's amazing. And it doesn't take the design off. This is wild.
Are they food safe?
Well, thank you for joining us today, and I hope that you learned something and that you want to do something with what you learned. And I'm going to leave a brush.
No, don't do it. That's your DNA, man. That's your.
Nobody knows. I'm going to leave one in one of the burnishing rooms.
You are not.
Why not?
You're afraid.
It's fine. You're going to keep that and those pieces and the clay that we have. Yeah.
You're
They're
very
gonna go,
generous.
Casey, they're gonna go with your little tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Set those right next to my Scorpito tool, and if you touch them, I'll.